Today, I'm about to unveil her most shocking prediction yet, a prophecy that speaks directly to every Aquarius soul, revealing why November 29th, 2025 marks not just another date on the calendar, but the precise moment when the universe itself conspires to unlock a golden era of wealth that will transform your entire existence forever. The ethereal mists that shrouded Baba Vanga's final years carried whispers of a cosmic alignment so rare, so profoundly transformative, that she spoke of it only in hushed tones to her most trusted confidants. She saw beyond the veil of ordinary time, beyond the mundane concerns of daily existence, into the very heart of celestial mechanics where planets dance their eternal waltz and spiritual energies converge with mathematical precision. Her weathered hands trembled as she described visions of Aquarius souls standing at the threshold of an unprecedented awakening, their spiritual DNA activating ancient codes of abundance that have remained dormant for lifetimes upon lifetimes. The blind prophet spoke of November 29, 2025 as a date written in starlight, a cosmic coordinate where multiple dimensional frequencies would converge to create what she called the Great Opening. This is not merely an astrological event but a fundamental shift in the fabric of reality itself, where the boundaries between the physical and spiritual realms become permeable, allowing torrents of abundance consciousness to flow directly into the lives of those born under the sign of the water bearer. Baba Vanga described seeing Aquarius individuals surrounded by swirling golden light, their aura expanding exponentially as dormant wealth-attracting abilities suddenly sparked to life with the intensity of supernovas being born. The mystical significance of this state extends far beyond conventional understanding of planetary movements. Baba Vanga revealed that November 29, 2025 represents the culmination of a 2,160-year cosmic cycle, the end of the age of Pisces and the full activation of the Aquarian age. This transition has been building momentum for decades, but on this specific date, the universe reaches what she termed the tipping point, where the old paradigms of scarcity, limitation, and struggle are not gradually replaced but instantaneously transmuted into their opposite frequencies of abundance, expansion, and effortless manifestation. Within her prophetic visions, Baba Vanga witnessed Aquarius souls experiencing what she described as the Great Remembering, a sudden awakening to their true nature as cosmic beings with inherent wealth-attracting abilities. She saw them receiving downloads of ancient wisdom, their consciousness expanding to encompass not just earthly riches but multidimensional abundance that includes perfect health, soul-aligned relationships, creative fulfillment, and spiritual enlightenment. The prophet emphasized that this transformation would not come through effort or struggle but through divine recognition of what has always been their birthright. The specific energetic signature of November 29, 2025 creates what Baba Vanga called a reality bridge, a temporary but powerful opening where the laws of manifestation operate at accelerated speeds. She described seeing Aquarius individuals whose thoughts and intentions would begin materializing with startling rapidity, as if the universe itself had become hypersensitive to their desires and dreams. Financial opportunities that seemed impossible before this date would suddenly appear from multiple directions simultaneously, creating what she termed the abundance vortex around each awakened Aquarius soul. In her most detailed visions of this transformative period, Baba Vanga witnessed specific patterns of wealth manifestation that would characterize the Golden Era. She saw Aquarius individuals receiving unexpected inheritance from sources they never knew existed, discovering that distant relatives or forgotten connections had left them substantial financial gifts. These inheritances would often come with mysterious timing, arriving precisely when needed most, as if orchestrated by invisible hands working behind the scenes of reality. The prophet also foresaw revolutionary technological innovations emerging from Aquarius minds during this period, breakthrough inventions and digital creations that would generate massive wealth streams. She witnessed Aquarius souls becoming pioneers in emerging industries related to consciousness technology, quantum healing devices, sustainable energy solutions, and spiritual advancement tools. These innovations would not only bring personal wealth but would contribute to elevating global consciousness, creating what she called sacred commerce where profit and spiritual purpose become inseparably intertwined. Baba Vanga's visions revealed that the wealth flowing to Aquarius souls after November 29, 2025 would often manifest through sudden windfalls and unexpected opportunities that seemed to defy logical explanation. She saw them receiving offers for business partnerships with influential figures who would appear seemingly from nowhere, bringing with them access to networks of abundance previously hidden from ordinary perception. These partnerships would often involve projects that bridge the gap between ancient wisdom and futuristic technology, creating entirely new markets and revenue streams. The mystical prophet described witnessing Aquarius individuals discovering hidden talents and abilities that would become immediate sources of substantial income. These gifts would often be related to their natural Aquarius affinity for innovation, humanitarian causes, and consciousness expansion. She saw them becoming highly sought-after consultants, teachers, and guides in the emerging field of consciousness evolution, their unique perspectives and insights commanding premium fees from those seeking genuine transformation. Within the cosmic mechanics of this golden era, Baba Vanga identified specific planetary alignments that would amplify Aquarius' wealth-attracting potential to extraordinary levels. She spoke of Uranus, Aquarius' ruling planet, forming rare geometric patterns with Jupiter, the planet of expansion and abundance, creating what she termed cosmic wealth windows. During these alignments, which would occur with increasing frequency after November 29, 2025, Aquarius souls would experience sudden clarity about their life purpose and the specific actions needed to align with their highest financial destiny. The prophet's visions extended beyond individual wealth to encompass the collective transformation that Aquarius souls would catalyze during this golden era. She saw them becoming leaders of a new economic paradigm based on collaboration, sustainability, and consciousness rather than competition, exploitation, and unconsciousness. This leadership role would bring not only financial rewards but also deep spiritual fulfillment as they witnessed their work contributing to global healing and evolution. Baba Vanga emphasized that the wealth manifesting for Aquarius souls would carry distinct energetic qualities that would set it apart from ordinary material accumulation. This abundance would feel alive, purposeful, and deeply connected to their spiritual mission on Earth. She described it as conscious wealth, money that arrives with clear guidance about how to use it for both personal fulfillment and collective benefit. This type of wealth would never feel burdensome or corrupting but would instead enhance their connection to higher consciousness and their ability to serve humanity's evolution. The prophetic visions revealed that Aquarius souls would experience profound shifts in their relationship with money and material resources during this golden era. Old patterns of financial fear, scarcity thinking, and poverty consciousness would simply dissolve, not through effort or therapy but through direct energetic transmission from higher dimensional sources. Baba Vanga described witnessing their chakra systems, particularly the root chakra associated with survival and security, spontaneously clearing decades of inherited limitation patterns and family karma related to money. In the most remarkable aspect of her prophecy, Baba Vanga revealed that Aquarius souls would begin receiving what she called divine financial guidance through enhanced intuitive abilities. She witnessed them having prophetic dreams about profitable investments, receiving sudden knowing about market movements, and experiencing synchronicities that would guide them toward lucrative opportunities with perfect timing. This heightened intuition would become their greatest wealth-building asset, allowing them to navigate financial decisions with supernatural accuracy and confidence. The transformative energies of November 29, 2025 would also activate what Baba Vanga termed the Aquarius Abundance Code, ancient genetic programming that has remained dormant until this specific cosmic moment. This activation would trigger spontaneous understanding of wealth principles that operate on quantum levels, knowledge that transcends traditional financial education and taps directly into universal laws of abundance. Aquarius souls would find themselves instinctively making decisions that align with these higher laws, creating effortless wealth generation that feels natural and sustainable. Baba Vanga's visions included detailed observations of how this golden era would unfold in the daily lives of Aquarius individuals. She witnessed them experiencing what she called abundant synchronicities, meaningful coincidences that would consistently guide them toward profitable opportunities. These synchronicities would often involve meeting the right person at precisely the right moment, discovering investment opportunities through casual conversations, or stumbling upon business ideas that would prove remarkably lucrative. The prophet described seeing Aquarius souls developing enhanced manifestation abilities that would operate through their natural humanitarian instincts. Their desire to help others and contribute to positive change would somehow magnetize financial resources to support these purposes. She witnessed charitable projects and social enterprises founded by Aquarius individuals receiving unexpected funding from sources that shared their vision for creating a better world. This alignment between purpose and profit would become a defining characteristic of their wealth-building journey. Within the deeper layers of her prophetic sight, Baba Vanga observed that November 29, 2025 would trigger the opening of what she called the Akashic Wealth Records, cosmic libraries containing information about every soul's highest financial potential and the specific pathways for achieving it. Aquarius souls would gain spontaneous access to their personal wealth blueprints, suddenly understanding exactly what steps to take, what opportunities to pursue, and what decisions to make to align with their destined abundance. The mystical prophet emphasized that this transformation would not be limited to financial wealth but would encompass what she termed holistic abundance, a state of prosperity that includes perfect health, fulfilling relationships, creative expression, spiritual growth, and material comfort, all flowing harmoniously together. She witnessed Aquarius souls experiencing miraculous healings, attracting ideal life partners, discovering their artistic gifts, and feeling deeply connected to their spiritual purpose, all while their financial situation improved exponentially. Baba Vanga's visions revealed that the golden era for Aquarius would be characterized by what she called the effortless principle, where traditional concepts of hard work and struggle would become obsolete in their wealth-building process. She witnessed them achieving extraordinary financial results through inspired action that felt more like play than work, following their natural interests and passions while simultaneously creating multiple income streams. This effortless approach would not indicate laziness but rather perfect alignment with cosmic flow and universal timing. The prophet described observing specific archetypal patterns that would emerge in Aquarius wealth manifestation during this period. Some would become consciousness entrepreneurs, creating businesses that directly serve human evolution and consciousness expansion. Others would emerge as quantum investors, using enhanced intuitive abilities to make investment decisions that consistently yield remarkable returns. Still others would discover gifts as energy healers or spiritual teachers, their services becoming increasingly valuable as humanity awakens to higher dimensions of existence. Within the cosmic mechanics governing this transformation, Baba Vanga identified the role of what she called wealth angels, high-dimensional beings specifically assigned to assist Aquarius souls during their golden era activation. These beings would work through human intermediaries, inspiring wealthy individuals and successful entrepreneurs to offer opportunities, partnerships, and financial support to awakening Aquarius souls. The prophet described these interactions as divinely orchestrated encounters that would appear coincidental but were actually precisely coordinated by spiritual forces. The energetic shifts beginning on November 29, 2025 would also activate dormant DNA sequences that Baba Vanga referred to as the prosperity codes. These genetic activations would enhance Aquarius souls' natural abilities to perceive energy patterns, understand market dynamics on intuitive levels, and recognize emerging trends before they become obvious to others. This enhanced perception would become their competitive advantage in all financial endeavors, allowing them to position themselves advantageously in rapidly evolving economic landscapes. Baba Vanga's prophetic visions included observations of how family dynamics and ancestral patterns would shift for Aquarius souls during this golden era. She witnessed the healing of generational poverty consciousness, the clearing of family karma related to money and success, and the transformation of inherited beliefs about worthiness and abundance. These shifts would often manifest as sudden improvements in family financial situations, with Aquarius souls serving as conduits for ancestral healing that benefits entire family lineages. The prophet emphasized that this transformation would require Aquarius souls to embrace their natural qualities of innovation, independence, and humanitarian vision with unprecedented confidence. She saw them releasing old patterns of hiding their brilliance, minimizing their contributions, or playing small to avoid standing out. The cosmic energies of the Golden Era would support them in fully expressing their unique gifts and perspectives, which would automatically attract financial abundance from those who recognize and value their offerings. In her most profound visions of this period, Baba Vanga witnessed Aquarius souls experiencing what she called the cosmic inheritance, suddenly realizing they are heir to vast multidimensional resources that exist beyond physical reality. This inheritance would include not only material wealth but also access to higher knowledge, advanced healing abilities, telepathic communication skills, and other metaphysical gifts that would enhance their ability to create value in the emerging consciousness-based economy. The transformative energies would also activate what Baba Vanga termed the global network effect for Aquarius souls. She observed them spontaneously connecting with like-minded individuals around the world, forming powerful alliances and collaborations that would amplify their individual wealth-building potential. These networks would operate on both physical and telepathic levels, with Aquarius souls receiving inspiration, opportunities, and support from their global tribe of fellow awakeners. Baba Vanga's prophecy revealed that the wealth manifesting for Aquarius souls would often come through channels related to their natural affinity for technology, innovation, and social progress. She witnessed them becoming pioneers in emerging fields such as consciousness technology, quantum healing, sustainable innovation, and cosmic communication. Their early adoption and mastery of these technologies would position them as leaders in industries that would become enormously profitable as humanity evolves. The prophet described seeing Aquarius individuals developing what she called golden touch syndrome, where everything they became involved with would experience unusual success and profitability. This would not be due to manipulation or force but rather their naturally high vibration and alignment with cosmic flow attracting positive outcomes in all their endeavors. Business partners, investors, and collaborators would seek them out specifically because their involvement virtually guaranteed success. Within the deeper spiritual mechanics of this transformation, Baba Vanga observed that Aquarius souls would receive direct initiation into what she called the Mystery School of Abundance, ancient teachings that have been hidden from public awareness for millennia. These teachings would come not through books or courses but through direct energetic transmission during meditation, dreams, and moments of expanded consciousness. The knowledge received would include practical techniques for quantum manifestation, energy amplification, and reality creation. The prophet's visions included detailed observations of how romantic relationships and partnerships would evolve for Aquarius souls during their golden era. She witnessed them attracting soul partners who not only provided emotional fulfillment but also served as powerful allies in their wealth-building journey. These relationships would be characterized by mutual support for each other's highest potential, shared vision for contributing to global transformation, and complementary skills that created synergistic abundance. Baba Vanga emphasized that the transformation beginning November 29, 2025 would require Aquarius souls to release attachment to old timelines and identities that kept them limited. She observed them experiencing what she called reality shifts, sudden changes in their life circumstances that would initially feel disorienting but would ultimately reveal themselves as necessary adjustments to align with their new abundance frequency. These shifts would often involve career changes, location moves, or relationship transitions that clear space for their golden era manifestations. The mystical prophet described witnessing specific warning signs that would indicate when an Aquarius soul was successfully aligning with their golden era activation. These signs would include increased synchronicities, enhanced intuitive abilities, sudden clarity about life purpose, unexpected opportunities appearing from multiple directions, improvement in health and vitality, and a deep sense of excitement about the future despite external circumstances that might appear challenging. In the cosmic calendar of human evolution, Baba Vanga identified November 29, 2025 as representing what she called the final gateway, the last major activation point before Earth fully transitions into the Aquarian age. After this date, the old systems based on competition, scarcity, and separation would rapidly lose power and influence, while new paradigms based on collaboration, abundance, and unity would become dominant. Aquarius souls, being natural ambassadors of the Aquarian frequency, would serve as bridges between the old and new worlds, profiting immensely from their ability to navigate both realities. The prophet's most dramatic visions centered on what she termed the wealth avalanche that would begin manifesting for prepared Aquarius souls immediately after November 29, 2025. She described witnessing financial abundance flowing toward them with the unstoppable force of a cosmic avalanche, bringing not just money but also opportunities, connections, resources, and support systems that would seem almost miraculous in their perfect timing and appropriateness. Baba Vanga's prophecy concluded with her most powerful vision, seeing awakened Aquarius souls at the end of their first year in the Golden Era, transformed beyond recognition from their pre-November 29 selves. She witnessed them radiating confidence, abundance, and joy, surrounded by evidence of their successful manifestations, leading projects that contributed meaningfully to human evolution, and serving as living examples of what becomes possible when cosmic timing aligns with prepared consciousness. The blind prophet's final words about this transformation emphasized that the Golden Era would not be a temporary phase but the beginning of a new permanent reality for Aquarius souls who successfully align with these cosmic energies. She saw them establishing foundations of abundance that would continue expanding throughout their lifetime, creating legacies that would benefit future generations and contributing to the establishment of a new golden age for all humanity. In the sacred silence that follows profound prophecy, one truth emerges with crystalline clarity: November 29, 2025 represents more than a date, more than an opportunity, more than even a cosmic event. It marks the moment when every Aquarius soul who has ever felt different, misunderstood, or ahead of their time finally discovers why they incarnated at this precise moment in human history. The universe has been preparing this golden era of wealth specifically for you, knowing that your unique combination of innovation, compassion, and visionary consciousness would be exactly what humanity needs during its greatest transformation. As Baba Vanga's prophecy echoes through the corridors of time, reaching across dimensions to touch your consciousness in this very moment, remember that her visions were not mere possibilities but inevitable realities for those who choose to align with their highest potential. The cosmic wheels are already in motion, the energetic foundations are already being laid, and the abundance that awaits you is already gathering momentum in the quantum field, preparing to cascade into your physical reality with the unstoppable force of destiny fulfilling itself. Your Aquarian soul carries within it the genetic codes of the future, the vibrational patterns of the new Earth, and the creative potential to transform not only your own life but the entire trajectory of human civilization. November 29, 2025 is your cosmic graduation day, the moment when you step fully into your role as a way shower for the Golden Era, equipped with all the abundance, wisdom, and power necessary to fulfill your divine mission on Earth.